It was being reported that Ange Postecoglou was having crunch talks with Evangelos Marinakis.
Never say never when it comes to Marinakis, but the sense I'm getting is that Postecoglou will be given a little bit more time to turn this around. One name to keep an eye on, Marco Silva at Fulham now. He's been quite vocal about his unhappiness. He does have a good relationship with Marinakis. I think if they do decide to change managers again, then he would be a genuine contender.
Kane, though, has said he's going to stay. He doesn't really fancy coming back to the Premier League. And I don't blame him, because he is playing some of the best football in his career. He looks $1 million.
Do you know what? If this can elongate his career for another 2 or 3 years, I've got nothing but total respect for him.
I think he'll probably see out his career in Germany now. Why would he want to go back to Tottenham, Harry Kane, and leave all that behind?
What England actually really needs, Scott, is a little bit of momentum.
Serbia was absolutely brilliant. He wants momentum. You know, is it a one-off or is it not? Because if this break doesn't go too well for him, then that will just be a one-off game, and then the pressure will be on him again.
I thought we might get quite a competitive game, but when you look at the bigger picture, I think it will be quite a scratch Wales team. And
the Welsh, the proud nation that they are, and so they should be as well, will be, whoever the team is picked, will be bang up for this. So I actually think this is a decent test for him. I think it'll be a tough game.
Hello, it's Premier League All Access, international break time with me, Sam Matterface, and $1 Million Minto, and the Saltmeister. He is here as well. Happy international break, everybody. Scott, how are you filling the void of no Premier League football?
To be honest with you, mate, I've not even got there yet. I was in the talkSPORT studio last night with Hugh, which was good fun. And this weekend, I'm going to be commentating for Chelsea TV on Chelsea Legends versus Liverpool Legends.
Busy old weekend for you then, Scott. I did also hear that you were supposed to be one of those people that they parade at half-time because you're so super famous now. But you turned it down because you're just so humble. So humble. Talking of people who are so humble, Crook, what will you be doing during the international break? Maybe dropping another one of those TikTok dance videos.
You never know. It's funny that Scott's been asked to commentate a game involving Chelsea Legends rather than actually play. I'll just leave that one out there.
Yeah. Wrong side of 50 now, mate. Wrong side of 50.
Sorry. Back to your TikTok video. I mean, what was that all about? Do you want to explain to people what you did?
My daughter is big in the TikTok world. I'm not, and our niece was over. My niece was over from Portugal, so her cousin, and they asked me if I get involved in a dance. She said, "Honest, Dad, we're not going to put it on TikTok. Don't worry." And within about 3 minutes, it was all over TikTok. So I did all right, actually. I thought some nice moves.
All over TikTok. All over TikTok. Is that how you would categorize it? The only reason that it's gone viral amongst the rest of us is because you sent it. You screen recorded yourself doing this dance, looking anything but sober, and sent it round to us. I obviously took it on board that you wanted it circulated, so made sure that everybody in the office saw it as well, which I hope the guys who produced the 10 to 1 show on Friday are going to take seriously enough to play on the programme. That's what we want. That's what we want. Are you a little bit annoyed that Manchester United go into the international break with a bit of momentum and all of a sudden they get to stop again, Crook?
No, I'm just relieved I don't have to worry about United losing this weekend. So I'm just going to enjoy the moment for a couple of weeks and salivate over those 3 precious points.
I love the fact that this is the international break he loves the most, just because Manchester United are now not playing. More Premier League chat to come. Go on.
And because my good friends at Adidas have sent me the World Cup ball as well. So another reason to celebrate the international break. I'll tell you what, it is a beauty. You can see the 3 colours there. You've got the maple leaf for Canada is on there. You've got the eagle for Mexico and obviously the stars for the USA. But I tell you what, that is so light. I'm already predicting goalkeepers are going to be complaining about this come next summer.
Okay, well, I love the way that you crowbarred that in. Have you started to ditch your Newcastle PR job for your Adidas PR job? That's what's on the agenda now? Right, okay. We'll get... well, I'm sure there'll be ball chat, but people who want to play with that ball next summer, England and Wales, clash on Thursday night live on talkSPORT. But let's get serious for a second, because what England actually really needs, Scott, is a little bit of momentum after the victory in Serbia. A friendly, not necessarily what they wanted next. They probably wanted a bit of a test. So this Wales offering, is it a test for them?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's probably come at the wrong time for Wales, really. I mean, they'll always want to play England and absolutely be bang up for it, but they've got Belgium, straight after, and that's their big game, really, of this international break. But that the Welsh, the proud nation that they are, and so they should be as well, will be, whoever the team is picked, will be bang up for this. So I actually think this is a decent test for England. I think it'll be a tough game.
Yeah, I thought that until, like you, I went through and looked at the way that Craig Bellamy lined up for the Canada game, and he obviously came out with a bit of kidology in the build up to the game, saying, if it was a boxing match, a promoter wouldn't put it on because the depth of the England squad is so ridiculous. But because of that big game at the Cardiff City Stadium on Monday night, which they really have to win, so it's all eggs in that basket if they want to go to the World Cup. They can't really afford to put out their strongest team against England on Thursday. And you just worry that might mean, Crook, that it becomes a bit of a one-sided affair.
Yeah, although apart from Serbia, obviously England haven't really swept too many teams away under Thomas Tuchel. But I think you're both right. I think obviously it's all about this Belgian game. It's what they've been talking about in Wales for a few international breaks now. Really, the other qualifiers have just been about getting the points on the board to make this Belgian game relevant, and it certainly is. They've got some injury issues as well. Aaron Ramsey has pulled out, obviously, now playing his football in Mexico, but he's not fully fit, and I think that's a big loss for them, just in terms of experience, and no Dan James either, who would have been a real threat for England with his pace. So, like you, I mean, I thought we might get quite a competitive game, but when you look at the bigger picture, I think it'll be quite a scratch Wales team. And interesting to see what Thomas Tuchel does. We're hearing this afternoon, that Harry Kane probably won't play, that he's picked up an injury. So that obviously gives Ollie Watkins an opportunity again to impress from the start. And I'm all for that.
He hasn't turned to him very often, has he? I mean, you said it like it's just like a fait accompli, but I'm not sure, will he play Eze there? Will he do something mad and different? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just being a little bit facetious, but he hasn't lent on Ollie Watkins very often.
No, but he is the only other number 9 in the squad, and it would be strange, I think, in this game for Thomas Tuchel to experiment. On the other hand, it is a friendly, but there aren't that many matches for England between now and the World Cup, and I'd imagine that Ollie Watkins' head would probably fall off if he didn't start and Harry Kane was injured, because he'd been waiting for such a moment like this.
Yeah. 6 games left before the World Cup squad has to be announced, Scott. Is it really time to be experimenting now, or is this about refining those selections, some of those fringe selections? So maybe, yes, about having Watkins primed and ready for action, about seeing who else is in that squad who can play minutes, because he made a big play about keeping this squad together. It was good at the last international break, so we're going to take it into this international break, and if it's good in this international break, we'll take it into the next international break. So do you sort of develop the connections now and those players that are in and around the first team in this game against Wales, or do you just go with your first team?
I think you hit the nail on the head right at the top when you said about momentum. And do you know what? I'm sure we'll come on to Jude Bellingham. And obviously he's only played 100 minutes, so he's not fully match fit. But 6 games, 3 camps. Why would you not try and foster the culture you want of the players that you believe will be involved in? So listen, just parking Bellingham to one side with the players that he's got, you're absolutely right. It's been a little bit underwhelming up until that Serbia game. Serbia was absolutely brilliant. He wants momentum. Is it a one-off or is it not? Because if this break doesn't go too well for him, then that will just be a one-off game, and then the pressure will be on him again. So I think you pick your best 11 and you try and develop that best 11 that's available, whether that's Harry Kane or not. So I'm fascinated to see. I actually do think Craig Bellamy, his ego, and I mean this in a good way, would be big enough to say, I'm not just going to play a scratch team against England. That's why I think it would be pretty competitive. But also for Thomas Tuchel, he's got to play the best available 11 that he has, because it has to be momentum now, not just a one-off.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I know that I was being a little bit sort of provocative with the suggestion about Watkins. The reason I asked it is because with Bowen and Rashford in the squad, and Rashford is the one he really likes, by the way. He absolutely loves Marcus Rashford. There is every chance that he might not necessarily go with Ollie Watkins. I mean, he should. I think we all think that that would probably be the most natural way of approaching the situation if Kane is unavailable. But my point is that he hasn't done that so far. You talked about Jude Bellingham and sort of putting it to one side. I don't think you can actually,
No.
can you? You've got to address the elephant in the room, which is the fact that we all know that he'll be probably in the World Cup squad. He'll probably be in the next squad after this international break. But ultimately, he has played enough minutes that you would think he could be part of this squad. So it is a marker that the manager has laid down. And Crook and I were pretty strong on this on Friday, that it was a bombshell announcement. And I know that Troy and Joel Ward pushed back a little bit. In fact, Joel Ward even said to me in one of the breaks, Crookie, it's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. I mean, did we go over the top? Is it that big a deal, or is it not really? Is he just sort of, just marking his card?
I still think it's a big deal. Troy pushed back on the word dropped, which was the headline in one newspaper soon after the squad came out. But I said to you at the time, if this was about physical exertion and managing game time, having not played a lot of club football this season, the FA would have briefed us that in advance, because they would have known the ramifications of this decision. And Thomas Tuchel had the opportunity in the press conference to say, look, it's just about fitness. He's not played enough minutes. He didn't say that. He obviously said it had been a factor. But he talked about the team spirit of the last squad, and as Scott's already alluded to, about wanting to build on that and keep the squad together. I think this is Jude Bellingham having his collar felt. No question about that. We all heard the rumours around the camp in the summer. I know Jordan Henderson has pushed back on those in an interview that he did with the newspaper this morning. But there was definitely a disconnect between Bellingham and some of the senior players, in particular in the squad. I think when Tuchel came in, the reason that Henderson was recalled was because he felt like there was an issue in terms of leadership, and maybe the dressing room wasn't quite as harmonious as it had been for much of Sir Gareth Southgate's reign. And the accusation was that Bellingham had played a big part in that. He used the word repulsive in an interview with Stuart Pearce and Adrian Durham to describe how his mum would feel about Jude Bellingham and some of his behaviour. I know he's backtracked on that, but I do think that's soured the relationship slightly. I think it has to, knowing the type of character that Bellingham is and the type of character that his parents are as well. So I think this is a massive statement from Thomas Tuchel. I compared it on air to Paul Gascoigne being left out of France '98, David Beckham being left out the first game in that competition. It's not quite on that level, because obviously it's only a friendly and a qualifier they're expected to win. But I do think this is an England manager stamping his authority.
And what happens next is really important here, Scott, isn't it? Right? Because if the England manager had said those things about me, not that I was ever going to be in an England squad, but if a manager had ever said those things about me, I would be like, oh my God, what have I got to do? What have I got to do? I've got to make sure I do this, and this to get back in his favour. How can I make sure that he wants to pick me the next time? The way Bellingham reacts to this, and we already know that when he had the phone call with Thomas Tuchel, he said he wanted to be called up. That's the most important thing, isn't it? What happens next?
Thomas Tuchel, without actually saying anything, can quash it all by picking Bellingham in the next squad and then the squad after that. But I'm with you two. I think this is a very big thing. And this is, without a doubt, in my opinion, a message to Jude Bellingham. Now, I don't know, you've heard more than me about what went on last summer. What I saw was even Gareth Southgate himself, not quite the usual calm, composed self, and seems to be getting ruffled. And that's why I've said from the very start of Thomas Tuchel's reign, I don't have a problem at all. In fact, I like Jordan Henderson being there, that senior pro leadership that he brings. So I hope and I think he will be in the squad come the World Cup. I go back to, this is 6 games, 3 camps. He's there to win the World Cup, in and out. I don't believe he'll be the England manager afterwards. I actually think he'll be the next permanent Manchester United manager, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. You need to foster the right culture, the right environment, and you need that with your top players. There's no doubt about it. We're a much better side with Jude Bellingham in it. So for me, this is almost a short, sharp, little kind of like saying to Jude Bellingham, listen, I'm not happy with certain things. I don't know what they are. But there's no other reason. I'm sorry, you're saying about Harry Kane's got a little niggle. If he had a little bit of niggle just before the squad was still called, 100% he'd still be in the squad. So
Absolutely.
for me, there's a message here, but between the two of them, they need to sort this out. Put the egos to one side. This is for your country and the country you're representing as a manager now. You need to sort this out. And look, I think they will in the end. I think they're big boys, but there's no doubt about it. In my opinion, there is an issue here.
Look, we also have to factor in that he is a superstar player who has been transferred from his boyhood club at the age of 16 to Borussia Dortmund for a huge amount of money, 23 million quid. And it was only 2 years ago that he has, at the age of 20, that he switched from German football to the biggest club side in the world in Real Madrid for over £100 million. You know, you have to be a certain type of character to be able to cope with that and deliver the way he did, especially in his first season in Madrid, where he was absolutely terrific right from the very off and playing in a different position. But he is just 22 years of age, and everything so far in his career has gone very much in one direction, which is upwards. So maybe there's a little bit of sort of man management going on here. Maybe it's a little bit like, hold on a second, let's see if we can cope without Jude here. Maybe it's a bit of, actually, no, I'll decide when you're ready to come back. I'll be the one who calls the shots here, not you. And I think maybe he's reasserting his authority a little bit, Thomas Tuchel. Either way, England are a better team when Jude Bellingham is fit, firing and at it. And the team around him is willing and able to perform. But, you know, there's no doubt that it's a very different team now on paper to the team that got to the final of the European Championships. It just is. It looks like a different team. You mentioned Jordan Henderson included yet again. He's enjoying his renaissance at Brentford, isn't he, Crook? He's actually played really, really well. He was on as a sub in the first game, and then he's basically started every single match since then. He says that he is far more than a cheerleader, says he would have done things maybe differently regarding the Saudi move if given the chance again. And he is proving people a little bit wrong, isn't he? I think people thought that he was sort of almost like a busted flush.
Yeah, I think, as you say, his performances for Brentford have been decent. There've been a couple of nice assists in there as well, with defence splitting passes, and he put himself around physically against City. I was there on Sunday. There was a particularly feisty challenge on Phil Foden that his England teammate didn't take too kindly to. So, yeah, I think at the moment you have to say he's justifying selection. I still think I'd rather not see him in the starting 11 for the big games in the States next summer, but he clearly has a big role to play in that dressing room. I do think it's a bit harsh just to brand him as a cheerleader. That was the accusation, wasn't it, from Roy Keane a couple of tournaments ago. Made a quip, I think, about him doing magic tricks in the dressing room, which is a little bit unfair. And I know you're going to say, well, actually, Roy Keane and Jordan Henderson get on very well, so that was tongue-in-cheek. But people did go with it because obviously the general public don't know about their relationship, so they did take it as a bit of a slight on Henderson. But I think he's becoming a very important lieutenant for Thomas Tuchel. Dare I say, he's almost like one of those vice captains that are so important for Europe at the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, he actually said, what does he do? The quizzes. Okay, let's hear from the Manchester City defender stroke midfielder Nico O'Reilly. He's got his first call up to this international camp, and that's because of the pullout of Reece James. He's been speaking to Angelina Kelly about how he received the news.
Nico, really good to speak to you. Congratulations on being in the England squad. When exactly did you find out?
Firstly, thank you. And I found out last night. It's pretty late, about 11 p.m.
Quick turnaround.
Yeah. I got a text from Thomas. He said, am I free to call? So I gave him a call. And yeah, he let me know the good news.
When you see a message like that, do you think, is that Thomas Tuchel? Hang on a minute. It must have been like such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I was a bit shocked. I had to double check. But yeah, it was an amazing feeling.
Did you have time to tell any of your City teammates that are in the England camp, or did they just kind of see you here and that was it?
Yeah, kind of just seen me here because they'd already got off. So yeah, I just gave my friends a message, let them know, my family.
Now, I know that when you signed your contract with Man City, they played a special message from your mum, and I know you've spoken about how important your mum is, how she raised you on her own, and I've got the same thing with my mum, so I know when you have that really special bond when it's the two of you. So I imagine she had to be the first person that you called.
Yeah, definitely.
Was she buzzing?
Yeah, she was over the moon. She was a bit speechless actually. So yeah, no, but she's buzzing.
I bet. And obviously, you know, you've got a few Manchester City teammates here, a few that aren't in the camp, like Phil Foden, Rico Lewis, etc. Have you spoke to any of them? Have you had a chance to give them a quick text if they had any words of advice for you?
I've not really had time yet. I spoke to John and Traff. So yeah, they helped me out a little bit. If I need anything, I know where I can go to.
Do you know what? This was a really fascinating interview. I think because Angelina made it like a chat between two people from the same area who knew the same people, and it was very informal, and it worked brilliantly as a result of that. And he sort of opened up and gave her a bit more information than maybe he would give others. But why is he in the squad? What is it about him as a footballer, Scott, that everybody seems to like? I mean, we know what we like about him, but what do football managers like about him?
Yeah, do you know what? I've sort of been watching him this season, and it did actually cross my mind, but I kind of ruled it out. You know, I didn't think Thomas Tuchel would bring him in because it's not about the future, it's about the here and now. But I thought he's playing in a top class side. He's playing regularly in a top class side, and he's playing really well regularly in a top class side. He's someone who's not a natural left back. And yet it does look like he's played that position for a long, long time. Now, it's one thing to be able to move into midfield, you know, sit in front of the back four and do that. He can also push on, be a number 10 because he's actually a natural number 10. My worry would be, although up until now, I think he's really dealt with it very well indeed, the one-on-ones defensive situations. But when I've watched him, he actually looks very comfortable. He knows how his body should be, whether to show inside, outside. I've been very, very impressed with him on a defensive way as well as an attacking way. I wouldn't want him starting for England in a World Cup game just yet, but I think he's shown already that he's good enough to be amongst the England boys for sure. And I've been very impressed with him in a City shirt.
No Livramento, no James. So fullback areas are a little bit light. Jed Spence, obviously in the squad. Miles Lewis-Skelly is in the squad. Actually, you know, none of them really are specialist left back Scots, are they? I mean, again, they do good jobs, and Lewis-Skelly certainly has done a good job, but he's not really playing week in, week out for Arsenal now. Jed Spence does play there for Tottenham Hotspur, but he didn't start their last league game. So where are we with fullbacks at the moment and England? I mean, Livramento obviously will be, I think, one of the first names. I think it'll be James and Livramento in the ideal world, but very rarely with fullbacks do we have the ideal world.
Not Trent.
Well, he's not been selected. I mean, even in this circumstance, he's not been selected.
Yeah, I would like to see Trent in that England squad. I think obviously it's taken a bit of adjustment for him at Real Madrid, and he's got enough problems trying to deal with Danny.
Is he injured? I mean, because Crook, you mentioned something about him being injured the other day, and I wondered whether that was a fitness issue, but I hadn't seen that.
No, well, even just towards the World Cup, I want to see him again. We talk about sort of match-winning moments. Spoke about it last week, what Ruud Gullit said, and he's certainly capable of that. Trent, you know, producing a bit of magic where it's difficult to break down a defence. So I want to see him there. Reece James, to me, is the best fullback. Look, Miles Lewis-Skelly, I think, even though he's not a natural left back, I think he's got 100 caps in him. I really do.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I think he's...
What is it you like about him?
He's pretty much got everything. Again, he's a more of a natural midfielder, and I still think he's got a little bit of learning to do from a defensive point of view. And it will be interesting where Gareth didn't really trust Trent defensively, whether Thomas Tuchel would trust Miles defensively on the other side. But I think he's got the lot. He's comfortable on the ball, technically very good passer, a good engine. I think he just needs to learn again that one-on-one situation, how to deal with a player, how to stay in your feet all the time. But I really do like him. I think he's a good player.
Crook, anything else that you want to see from the game on Thursday night that you haven't seen under Thomas Tuchel so far, bearing in mind there's not many opportunities now to experiment ahead of naming that World Cup squad?
I think just a continuation of what we saw against Serbia, because that was far and away the best performance of the Tuchel reign, that the shackles were off, that the team express themselves in a way that we haven't seen before. And I think this is an opportunity with no sort of World Cup qualifying points at stake to really prove they can be a genuine contender in the States next summer. In terms of personnel, I think it's difficult. I'll go back to what I was talking about. I personally would like to see Ollie Watkins given a run up front. I think if he isn't, and your theory is that maybe someone like Marcus Rashford gets the nod, I think there could be a problem down the line in terms of an understudy.
Don't put words into my mouth. I used the word obviously Ollie Watkins would start, and I just said, obviously? Is it obvious? That's all I said. That's not a theory. Like I've got some sort of conspiratorial arrangement where I think somebody else will come in. I'm just saying I don't know if it is as obvious a choice as everybody thinks it might be.
And I think he'll play, but I take on board what you're saying. I think I'd also like to see a performance from Morgan Rogers because his form at club level this season has been a little bit patchy. So maybe a new environment on the international stage might help him get back to his best. Because in terms of the 11, I know you've got a theory on the squad that probably 17 names are now down. So therefore, players are playing for sort of 6 places. Are we saying we know 8 or 9 of the 11? I think if we're looking at, you mentioned the right back position. I think that number 10 role is an interesting one as well, obviously depending how Tuchel wants to utilise Bellingham.
Yeah, and do you know what? The one experiment that we haven't seen yet, which I think we will see over this international break, if he's fit, that is John Stones playing in the 6. I think we'll see that for the first time, maybe against Wales. If it works, maybe against Latvia as well. And that might seem a little bit harsh on Elliot Anderson, who did a particularly good job, actually, in the last international break in both games against Andorra and Serbia. But he's desperate to get Stones in the squad, and he thinks that he could be that ball-playing midfield player. So now he's in the squad, he will make sure that there is an opportunity for us to see that at some point. Sometimes these things that are in your mind for so long, and they did it with Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, many years ago, you crowbar them into the midfield because you think it's going to really work there. And then when they get there, it just doesn't, it for whatever reason. So you have to change it back again. But I think we should see that, and I think we probably will see that over the next couple of days or so. I was just thinking about the team now. Central defence, I think, is pretty locked down, isn't it? I mean, if Stones is going to play as a midfield player, it's going to be Reece James at right back, Ezri Konsa, Mark Guéhi, John Stones as the 6 in midfield, and the left back is going to be Tino Livramento if everyone's fit. And then you're thinking about the 4 in front of that, because I'm pretty sure now it's 4-1-4-1. Then you're going to have Anthony Gordon on the left, Bukayo Saka on the right. You're going to have Jude Bellingham in one of the 10 positions and Declan Rice maybe in the other one, aren't you? And then Harry Kane up top.
I mean, you've mentioned how much Thomas Tuchel likes and has faith in Marcus Rashford. I think if you're asking me who's the better player when at their absolute peak, I would go Rashford. I think he's going to get you more assists. I think he's going to get you more goals. I think he's going to terrorise more defenders. Obviously, the issue he's had over the last few years is he's not been able to produce that on a consistent basis. So I think I would go Rashford ahead of Gordon if both are at the peak of their powers.
And you've got Noni on the other side, haven't you? Push Bukayo Saka. So what great changes you got, Scott?
You haven't even mentioned Cole Palmer. I mean, are we saying that he's not going to start?
Or Eza.
Eza, look, Eza, you know what I think about Ebery Eza. I think he's an amazing player, but there's a few, listen, with the 60, 70 million England managers out there, I wouldn't have that as an 11 personally. There'd be a few changes for me.
Would you not?
No. I'd back 4, I'd look at Miles Lewis-Skelly. I'd definitely Reece James and the 2 centre-halves, yes. I mean, to be fair, no one really mentioned Jordan Pickford. And I mean, what a job he's done for England, by the way.
He's never been moved, mate. He's never been moved.
No.
That kid has been slated since the minute he got the job.
Yeah.
And has been given, everyone's saying it's only a matter of time before he costs England. It's only a matter of time. He has been a model of consistency. He's been absolutely terrific. He's a great servant. He hasn't conceded a goal for England since October.
He's been amazing, and in a position, as we know, at club level, where there's goalkeepers struggling to deal with the pressure that comes with certain clubs and positions, he's certainly able to handle playing for his country. Even though he plays as an 8, I don't see how you can't have Cole Palmer as long as he's fit and playing well, not in the side. Jude Bellingham as well. So I would have them as my 2 number 10s. I'd have Declan Rice holding. Now, there's a little bit of a sacrifice there for him, but you can't not have Cole Palmer in the side, in my opinion. So he's having to sort of sit back and play a 6, which we know he can. He's played it for most of his career, even though arguably he's a better 8. But you have him as a 6. You have Bellingham and Cole Palmer as the 2 10s. I agree with Crookie about Rashford, although I do like Anthony Gordon. Eze is there as well. And then on the right, there's Saka first, but Noni Madueke is right behind him.
Yeah, do you know what? It does look like a good squad. There's going to be some disappointed people that don't get on that plane. That is for sure. The first assignment, though, is Thursday night. They take on Wales in a friendly. And England will qualify on Tuesday night if they beat Latvia and Serbia do not win their 2 games this time around. So Serbia are playing Albania on Saturday night. Should they not win that game, then there's an opportunity for England to win on Tuesday night and go through to the World Cup on Tuesday night in Riga. That's it for England. Should we have a little look at some of the other news from around the Premier League? Well, the Premier League is on a break. Mainly, I think the Premier League now does a break so that Crook can do TikToks for us. But the news keeps tumbling. Of course, next year, Scott, this is great, right? The international break next year in October. Get this, by the way. The international break in September and October last week is now just one break. So it's at the end of September and the beginning of October. So you get a greater lead-in time in the Premier League. So you get a few more weeks of Premier League action. And then you get one big 3-week international break where international teams will play 4 games. So like a huge break. So God knows what's going to happen there, but it's quite fascinating, actually. Imagine the number of TikToks we're going to get from the Salt Meister.
Imagine the number of holidays I can get in that 3-week break. The number of rounds of golf.
Rounds of golf, yeah, I was going to say. It'd be absolutely outstanding. I don't know what talkSPORT's going to do for 3 weeks. It's going to be an absolute nightmare.
I'm sure I've just seen Crookie on his phone texting his sister-in-law saying, can I book out your villa for a month in Portugal?
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? It was being reported that Ange Postecoglou was having crunch talks with Evangelos Marinakis over this international break. Crookmeister, we've had 3 days of it. What's happening?
Well, I think that came from Postecoglou himself in the press conference after the defeat in Newcastle, said that he would be meeting with Marinakis. All very quiet at the moment coming out of Forest, but it was during the last international break before they decided quite late on to part company with Nuno Espirito Santo. So never say never when it comes to Marinakis, but the sense I'm getting is that Postecoglou will be given a little bit more time to turn this around. One name to keep an eye on, I wrote about this in my notebook on Tuesday. You'll find that on the talkSPORT website. Marco Silva at Fulham. Now, I think it's difficult to get him out of Fulham mid-season, but his contract is up at the end of the season. I don't expect him to stay at Craven Cottage. I think he's been quite vocal about his unhappiness during most of the transfer windows that he's been in situ, and he does have a good relationship with Marinakis. He was the manager at Olympiacos when they won their 43rd league title. So I think if they do decide to change managers again, then he would be a genuine contender.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Marco Silva, the best answer of a question in the Premier League. You ask him one question, he'll give you a 2.5-minute answer, and you can just sit back and enjoy the best post-match interview around. Nottingham Forest against Chelsea is live on talkSPORT 12:30 on Saturday when we return after the international break. Now, what about this? Arsenal considering a move to Wembley to expand the Emirates Stadium. Does it make you feel that old that the Emirates is now being considered quite dated?
Well, I don't think it's about it being dated. It's about trying to get more bums on seats. And I've got to say, over the last few years, obviously, my wife's an Arsenal fan, so's the father-in-law. Even when Aaron Ramsdale was playing for them in goal, he was struggling to get older tickets at times. There's a massive demand to go and watch this Arsenal team under Mikel Arteta. The place is full week in, week out, and they've seen what other clubs have done by expanding capacity, and they've obviously seen the commercial revenues that come with it. I'm not sure a lot of Arsenal fans would be in favour of moving to Wembley again. That didn't work for them at all last time, did it, when they were playing Champions League games there? And actually, I remember speaking to people like your co-commentator, Lee Dixon, and him saying that was a big barrier for us in terms of Champions League progression because European teams enjoy coming to play at Wembley. They saw it as a night out, and maybe we would have been better off sticking at Highbury. But I can see the sense in Arsenal expanding, and they want to be, I think, the biggest ground in London again, because they've been overtaken on that front by both West Ham and Tottenham.
Yeah, Manchester City have just invested in their stadium, and that's nearly finished now. They're taking their capacity up to the next level as well, ahead of the European Championships, which they will host in 2028. And it's great. And the reason they're doing it is because, okay, I know people will point fingers at Manchester City and say, you don't sell enough tickets to have a bigger stadium. But it means that they can host massive events. It means that they've ended up spending a lot of money on stuff around the stadium, like fan parks, hotels, restaurants, bars, all that kind of stuff, to sort of keep people in the complex for longer right throughout the day. And it's a revenue generating exercise. They've gone into partnership with a entertainment company, and they've built a box, the Co-op Live, next door to the Manchester City Stadium, which is part owned by Manchester City, and they have all the big acts there now. When you play a big gig in Manchester, you usually go to the Co-op Live. It's a massive, massive arena, one of the biggest in Europe. So that all sort of multi-event, multi-purpose arena stroke stadium stuff really does increase the revenues. And obviously, with the PSR rules as they are and the UEFA rules as they are, you need to have as much revenue generation as possible. Bayern Munich, obviously very happy to have Harry Kane, still chirping on about Voltemada, but don't worry about that. Kane, though, has said he's going to stay. He doesn't really fancy coming back to the Premier League. And I don't blame him, because he is playing some of the best football in his career. He looks $1 million. 18 goals in 10 games, Scott.
Yeah, and look, people, I think, show a bit of lack of respect to the Bundesliga. We know it's not quite the Premier League, not in terms of physicality and strength in depth, but it's still a very, very good league. And you know, Sam, you saw the game, and I know Crookie did as well at Chelsea. I mean, how good was he? He was man of the match. He was a brilliant number 9. He was a brilliant number 10.
Scale.
He was a brilliant number 6. I'll tell you what, if we're really struggling, we might put him as a number 6. He's a very different player to Wayne Rooney, but he's similar in the sense that he's incredibly versatile. He's not just your number 9, your typical striker, the one that tries to get into the box in the way that, say, a Gary Lineker, Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler did. Alan Shearer obviously was a superb number 9 as well, but even he was a number 9. Whereas Harry Kane, he can be a brilliant number 9 and a number 10. And do you know what? If this can elongate his career for another 2 or 3 years, because not every single game is bang on it, and he can still do the stuff for England. Going back to England, actually, with Ollie Watkins, I'm with Crookie. He's got to put in Ollie Watkins. If he doesn't, then Harry Kane's powers of making sure he's the number 1 by a million miles is greater than even I ever thought. But he is sensational. I've got nothing but total respect for him.
I am with you. It should be Ollie Watkins on Thursday night. I'm just saying the word obvious is not necessary, because I'm not sure that when it comes to Thomas Tuchel and Ollie Watkins, anything is obvious. I'm just saying that. That's all I wanted to get out there. Calm yourself down. On September the 26th, Harry Kane scored his 100th goal for Bayern Munich in his 104th appearance for the club, needing 1 game fewer to reach a century of goals than Cristiano Ronaldo at Real Madrid and Erling Haaland at Manchester City. I think that is an absolutely startling statistic. I think that shows the level that he is at. And I also think that it sort of amplifies the idea that we don't really revere him the way we revere the others, and we should, Crook.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe that's just part of the English psyche, that we feel more of a need to denigrate our sporting superstars than necessarily put them up on a pedestal. But I think Harry Kane will be one of those players that is only really truly revered when he hangs up his golden boots, because his record for club and country, wherever he's been, and he wasn't part of a brilliant Tottenham team, certainly not for the majority of his Spurs career. He just knows where the goal is. And those numbers that you've just read out are absolutely staggering. And speaking of Kevin Hatchard, who's obviously our big Bundesliga man, Bayern Munich fans absolutely love him. And they're a little bit surprised at the suggestion he would even entertain a move back to the Premier League. And again, I think that backs up Scott's point that we don't realise, or a lot of people don't realise, that Bayern Munich are a genuine global phenomenon in the same way that Liverpool and Manchester United and Real Madrid and Barcelona are. So why would he want to go back to Tottenham, Harry Kane, and leave all that behind? I think he'll probably see out his career in Germany now. And I think that actually will benefit England because, again, I'm not denigrating the league, but it isn't as physically demanding the Bundesliga week in, week out as the Premier League. And hopefully that means we're going to see a fitter, sharper Harry Kane at this World Cup than maybe we have at previous tournaments.
Fingers crossed on that. And also, they just sometimes they don't have as many cup competitions, obviously, as well, which sort of plays into the situation. And they usually win the title by about March anyway, so we can rest up towards the end of the season. Did Kevin Hatchard win his darts leg, by the way?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he played better than you.
He did.
He played better than you.
He did. Well, I think me and Kevin both won. You didn't win.
I was playing the only bloke there who bought his own arrows.
No, he wasn't even the best player. The geezer you played wasn't even the best player. The geezer our producer Keelan played was unbelievable. He checked out with as if he was firing missiles out of a gun. Bang, bang, bang. And Keelan was like, I've only just started. What's going on? We played. I tell you what this is all about. A good friend of ours passed away, Russell Hargreaves, who was part of our talkSPORT team. And every year, because he also worked for Arsenal, the Arsenal Supporters Trust and talkSPORT have a Russ Hargreaves Memorial Cup event, which is darts, a competition between the two entities. And the Arsenal Supporters Club, I have to say this, made everybody feel so welcome. And they put on such a brilliant event last night. I'm so grateful for the way that they treated us and looked after us. And we all got involved. And they're just brilliant people. And it was all about remembering Russ. It was all about raising money for charity and his family. And it was a brilliant night. And it was topped off by the fact that we won our first 3 legs of the dart. So Kevin Hatchard won his. I won mine. Then Adrian Clark went up to the Oki and he won his 3-0. This is going very, very well. And then the Crookmeister turned up and lost. And Perry Groves, who was on our side, just turned around to me just before he threw his first dart and went, "You actually want him to lose, don't you?"
He can turn again, Crookie, for sure. Not always for the positive.
I was like, no, of course I don't want him to lose. Of course, and actually, he did really nearly check. I mean, he's much better at darts than I am. I was fluky, but he did nearly throw, and quite. I mean, I say throw. He sort of does this on his phone. Sort of jumps like a little horse over and sort of releases the dart. When he did actually almost check out with that. What was it, 110 or something like that?
108.
108. It was really good, but he didn't, and he lost. So no points on the board from him, which is a shame. We won 4-3. We have the trophy, and that's all that matters. Scott, thank you very much for your contribution today. Have a good international break. We'll see you on the next episode, as Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dre once said. Crookmeister, see you on TikTok. Have a good one.
Enjoy. Good luck. England, Wales on Thursday night. We'll all be listening.
We'll see you on, I think we're doing Sunday, aren't we, to review all of the show. Oh, no, we're not doing Sunday. Crook's not available. Either Monday or Saturday. We'll be here anyway after the game, and we'll also preview the big game in Latvia later on in the week. So stick around.